Well, my friends, it was the night of the blood moon. Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies, rivers and seas boiling, 40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes, the dead rising from the grave, human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Well, it turns out we've got 3 more lunar eclipses coming up in the next 18 months or so, and so I thought for a change of pace I might crack out the old astronomy lecture book and invite Steve Green and Scott out to join me for some education speculation. Boys, I'll start by telling you a quick little true story. Back when I was just getting started in amateur astronomy, I was really excited to hear that there would be a total eclipse that was going to happen in early morning just before dawn. So I took the telescope outside, I set up the sun filter, I waited for almost an hour staring into the east, waiting for the sun to come up, and then I realized that I'd missed the entire total lunar eclipse that had just happened behind me as the moon was setting into the west. So a lunar eclipse is when the moon passes into the shadow of the Earth. Has to be a full moon for this to happen. The moon and the sun have to be on exactly opposite sides of the Earth. But we see a full moon every month. We don't see a lunar eclipse every month because the Earth's shadow is actually pretty narrow, and the tilt or the inclination of the moon's orbit means that it's pretty rare for it to pass directly into the Earth's shadow or directly between the sun and the Earth, as in a solar eclipse on the other side. So, Steve, a lot of people have been saying that eclipses are omens. Well, they've been saying that kind of thing since there have been people. Now, Steve, if you lived in a primitive, superstitious culture, one where cannibalism was the norm, where superstition and fear ruled your life, one where you kind of blindly worshipped a god king and believed all manner of drivel and nonsense, Hollywood, let's say, would you take this blood moon more seriously than you do for, let's say, a State of the Union address?
Well, you know what? Let me tell you how I did take it seriously. The first time I got to see a lunar eclipse was, it must have been 6th or 7th grade. I remember it was summer vacation, and I was at that age where I was too young or too old over summer vacation to enforce a strict bedtime. But I was also too young to be going out and having fun, driving a car, seeing girls, whatever. So what I used to do is I would work on my model Star Wars spaceships, painting all the details late into the night. I'd watch Carson. I watched Tom Snyder, and then after Tom Snyder was on, Channel 11 would run the Three Stooges. So I was up until 2 or 3 every night of summer vacation. And we were getting this lunar eclipse one night, and it wasn't supposed to come until 2 or 3 in the morning. Well, I'm already up that late. So here's how seriously I took it. I turned off the Three Stooges. I went to the garage. I got the big ladder. This is the wooded suburbs, by the way, so there's a lot of trees in our field of view. I got the big ladder. I put it up against the house. I climbed up on the roof in this just brilliant Midwestern, probably 75-degree shirt sleeve, dead of the night, and I stood there on the roof, and I watched that moon move into an eclipse, and it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. Don't be afraid. Enjoy the beauty. It doesn't happen that often.
Well, what a great story, man. Carson, Snyder, and the Stooges. That's the way to grow up. That'll make you into a good person. Scotty, you're well known to be a deeply devout man. Now, many people, including a few Christian preachers recently, say that these red moons are a sign that God is angry with us. I happen to think they're right about God being angry with us. I just don't think the eclipse has anything to do with it. Have we earned our celestial darkness? Do you think, Scott, do you think that the giant dragon is eating the moon because we've been very bad, or is it just that we're just being bad and things happen up there?
Well, we certainly have earned, at least I personally have earned, all the punishment that the Almighty could possibly mete out, and I don't think it's adequate to have something that just, passes fleetingly over the surface of the moon. I think pieces of the moon should break off and pummel my flesh against the ground. And when you're looking at a guy like, you had the preacher up there on the screen, this is a product. This isn't the gospel. This is a product. This is people who have something to sell. And that's what that guy is doing right there, because he knows he can juice fundraising if he manages to scare enough people into thinking that he's figured out the secret biblical code, that this particular eclipse is more significant than all the previous eclipses that happened over the vast span of time. The Old Testament book of Joel certainly does make reference to a time when the moon will turn to blood. I don't know exactly what that means. Does that mean it's going to be a lunar eclipse? Well, apparently it's not the last, 600 lunar eclipses we've had. So I think what people have to make a distinction about is the fact that, yes, there are nominally Christian preachers out there who are saying stuff like this, but they're about as rare as blood moons.
Just have to comment very briefly before I close on some of those graphics we were looking at a minute ago. There was a picture we saw just a few moments ago of the Earth blocking out the sun from the surface of the moon, and it said NASA up in the upper right-hand corner. And when I was a young boy, as I was talking about earlier, if I'd seen that picture, it wouldn't have been, I would not have expected it to be a simulation. I would have expected by the year 2014, we would have photographs of the Earth actually blocking out the sun from the surface of the moon because we'd be on the surface of the moon. Wouldn't have to be a computer graphic.
You would have taken that picture,
I would have taken it myself. That's exactly right. That was my job. And not with a little iPhone either, with one of those twist things that they had in 2001: A Space Odyssey, one of those cameras. Anyway, the reason I wanted to do this story was because of another memory from a little bit later than the one I told a minute ago about having missed that lunar eclipse because I was looking in the wrong direction. You know, when I was very young, about 14 or 15, I was working at the Miami Space Planetarium, and my boss was a man named Jack Horkheimer. This would be about 1974 or so. And years before he did Star Hustler, Jack had an idea about covering the lunar eclipse of that year live from the studios of WPBT in Miami. It was called Night of the Red Moon. And he recruited a skinny 15-year-old console operator to stand in front of a green screen and point out live from memory the various lunar features as they disappeared into the Earth's shadow. So there I was standing in front of a blue screen, I guess it was, in triple knit polyester suit. And just as we went on the air, this giant cloud deck moves in, and there's nothing to see but this diffuse glow. And now to Bill Whittle. So I ad-libbed and talked about the mechanics of the orbit, that kind of thing. And since the show was live and we blocked out 2 hours, they kept coming back to me. And I just go on about how the Maria were formed and how the density of impact cratering gave us an idea of the relative age of the part of the surface and so on. And that was my first time on TV and the first time I ever had to think on my feet and deal with technical problems in real time. What's happened to the key? There's nothing on prompter. There's nothing on prompter. We have to stop.
Oh, the humanity.
I can't just pick it up. I can't just pick it up. Well, I don't care if it's live. Oh, can we just go back to the for PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle. Thanks, Jack.